Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today, we are finally reviewing another video game. It has been like a month since I reviewed one of these, and I've been playing this one for a while, The Cruel King and the Great Hero. So, let's get into it. Moving into a basic summary, The Cruel King and the Great Hero is a JRPG, so it's a Japanese-style RPG. For those of you who don't know, that's a role-playing game. Why am I explaining this? I don't know. Anyhow, the basic overview of the game is that, basically there was this evil dragon overlord. He was defeated by a hero, and then something happened to the hero, so he asked the dragon to raise his daughter. And now the dragon's raising his daughter, and she wants to grow up to be just like her papa, which is adorable. Like, this whole thing is just like a big old storybook story. It's very fun, very lighthearted. Good story overall. Very, very nice. So, moving on to that, gives us into the main story. Basically, it's just you going out there, taking on responsibilities. After having lived her life basically under the dragon's care, she's finally being allowed to, go out into the forest and, fight some of the more rogue pharaoh monsters that patrol their kingdom. She goes to help out random monster villagers, goes on a quest to, just become a hero. Just go around until becoming a hero strikes. And eventually, meeting up with other characters. She helps a fox heal his sick family. Goes on to figure out this mysterious dispute between honeybees and these bears made of honey, which is very fun. Helps a human princess, all that kind of stuff. It's just, random, fun book adventures. Pretty good story overall, I'd say. Most of the characters are pretty likable. I enjoy you as a protagonist. She's just kind of oblivious, and it's a lot of fun. I also love how the dragon is characterized. So, he's basically the Dragon King, and this is we're deep in the land of archetype fantasy, if that makes sense, where people oftentimes will just have names where it's just yeah, my name is me, so he's just the Dragon King. And it's kind of a known secret that he used to be the Demon King until one of his horns got chopped off, so now he has less power, but he's also less controlled by the power, so he's a lot more chill out now. He's doting on you, basically whenever he tells her, yeah, you're free, I'll let you go into the forest on your own. He's actually visible in the background as you're walking through the level and whenever you're fighting monsters. And when you start off, you have this fire attack, which is literally you holding up her sword. She thinks she can summon fire, but it's actually her dad hiding in the bushes behind her, breathing fire on the sword, and it's adorable. Whenever your health gets low, he starts going oh no, buddy, the baby! And the art style really is just fantastic here. This is a beautifully designed game, and I'm dancing around the subject matter this was torture to play. Look, I like this game. I like it a lot. I think it has good ideas, but it became a slog. And now we're getting to it, the gameplay. So it started out fine. The gameplay is very simplified JRPG. You have health and you have power points, which are essentially your ability you use for special abilities. Let's do the positives first, because I think there are some good positives here. This is a very stripped down, streamlined RPG experience. You can have a party, but you can only have one companion at a time. You have a lot of attacks that can hit in certain directions. There are some very nice controls here. In fact, one of the things I really liked in this RPG, control-wise, is that whenever in an RPG like Pokemon, when you accidentally hit the wrong button for an attack, and you're like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, and you start mashing B, it can help you go back. Yeah, this game actually has a little loading bar right after you hit it, and if you hit B real quick in there, you can actually go back and undo that attack, which I found personally very nice. Very nice quality of life there. In addition to that, I like the simplified RPG mechanics. I think it's fun. There's also an actual strategy in this. Whereas a lot of RPG games just have their monsters kind of have mostly random attacks. It's very hard to see what they're going to sling at you, or they tend to sling based on what you're doing. The monsters in this game will actually react with a certain pattern. They have attack patterns that are clearly visible, and you can base it off their current moves. So when you fought something enough, especially in the boss fights where you get to learn these patterns, you can predict when they're going to do their very heavy attack. Now, in most RPG games, you just have to sit there and take it. But in this game, you can actually do a defensive maneuver that can greatly reduce the damage. So learning when they're going to launch their really powerful attacks can be very useful at shielding yourself. I only ever used this in the final boss fight. I should have realized this earlier on and used it. And this is something you can do with basically all the monsters. You get a rhythm for a lot of the random encounters in this game, a lot of the monsters you fight. And I think that's good. It shows a bit more strategy. You actually have to think in some of the later boss fights. And overall, I was enjoying combat until about 2/3 of the way through the game, when a hallway stretched on for about 5 times longer than it needs to be. And let's just get the big one out of the way. This game is padded. And it's a shame, because I don't think it needed to be. I got through this in about, 20 hours, but that was with, having to constantly take breaks, come back in, me making some stupid mistakes, and the final boss fight, which we will frickin' get to that. The hallways in this game are just these long, repeating stretches. You could literally have shrunk the game world about, 1/5 of the space, and just made encounters, and still had the encounters be about as normal as they are now, and just had you level up slightly faster, and this game would play the same. There is so much padding with random encounters. I know it's de rigueur for RPGs and all, but this is just, it's obnoxious because these worlds feel like these places you go to real quick and you see there are only a handful of enemies, there's not a lot of variety, and that's fine. I would have been fine with that if these levels were shorter, because that can work. You can have shorter games, game developers. Games don't have to meet arbitrary length requirements, okay? If I got 10 hours out of the main quest line in this, I think I would have been happy with that. I genuinely do. I think I would be happy with a 10-hour campaign for this. And that was with me doing only a handful of side quests. I only did 4, and they were really early ones. I mostly just pushed through this. And aside from the final boss fight and one of the earlier boss fights, I didn't really have any much trouble. My problem is that the game felt like it was padding itself. And the thing is, the pacing at the beginning of the game is at odds with the pacing at the end. So, in the early game, I thought the levels were actually very well proportioned. I thought they were just long enough, and they weren't too grindy. But the last, 2 or 3 levels are just a grind fest of these long stretches of hallway. It's just not doing it for me. It was not enjoyable to go through. Maybe if I had constantly stopping and doing side quests, but then I'd have to go through these huge areas even more so, because I'd have to go to different objectives in them, and I have to go back to old ones. And I just feel like that wears me down. The music is, and you know what? There's so much to like about this game. It has good characters, it has fantastic backgrounds, it has good music, which I'll get to in a moment, but the gameplay felt and even the gameplay, it feels streamlined. It feels like it could have been this nice snappy experience, but they tried to stretch it out into a longer game, and I think that hurt it. And I think video games in general really need to get over using length as a judge of quality. I feel like somebody made this game, and then somebody did some playtesting, and they're like, you know what would make this game better if you made it longer? And they just made it longer and did not think of how that would impact the player who is playing it. Which is, again, a shame. So, my big criticism over there, I enjoyed the gameplay at first, but it got drawn out and stretched up by people who were clearly trying to extend the runtime for very little gain. So yeah, that was my main problem with it, and when it comes to a game not being fun to play, docks you a lot of points. Moving on from that, though, I do want to end this on something positive. The music to this game is a freaking blast, and you can get a $60 version of this game, which is the normal price for a video game, and I think it's worth it for this little plushie, and you get an art book and everything. It's very nice. It's called the Storybook Edition. That's how I found it. It was the only version I could find, actually. I got for the Switch. And yeah, I think it's a good value for money. But it's just, I feel like every part of this game works for me except for the gameplay towards the end. Also, the final boss fight is BS. I really did not enjoy that fight. But I did enjoy the tearful ending. It's just like, aww, such a sweet ending. Plus, the main draw for this in the story is the relationship between you and the Dragon King. And honestly, that is fantastic. fun fact, for those of you who don't know, I am not the most empathetic person, but there are a few tropes that get me. See, I've never really gotten romance, and I've raged a lot about romance in the past, because I feel like romantic attraction is like the only thing most people seem to want to shove into their character relations. But family relations are something I can actually understand, to a degree. And one thing I've always found very adorable as a trope is when something like a demon king raises a human child. I don't know why. It's I always enjoyed it. I've read a few fanfics where like the nine-tailed fox from Naruto raises the little version of Naruto as a kid, and for some reason I just always go, "Aw, that's cute." And you know what? So many games that was literally this plus trope plus a dragon in a medieval RPG, medieval style fantasy RPG, and I was just like, I feel like this is a game that was made for someone who knows my secret loves, and it's like, hey, I'm not gonna object, and then I find out they made grindy, and I'm like, oh, they had to ruin it. They had to put a flaw in there, huh? Really killer one, too. But yeah, so the music in this game is absolutely amazing. I actually have the soundtrack. I'm listening to it. It's so relaxing. Oh, God, that music is so good. Fantastic composition, wonderful drawing, lively characters, good writing, and really drawn out grindy gameplay near the end. Ooh, fumbling at the end. That'll get you a 7 out of 10. So yeah, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. If you like these kind of games, if you're really into JRPGs and can handle a lot more of the grind than I can, and I do like JRPGs, the grind does sometimes turn me off. I'm usually able to get over it. I just wasn't able to do it in this one because I felt like the combat was more streamlined. Which, while it had some complexity, the complexity had a lower skill cap than I personally enjoy. So yeah, that was all for me. 7 out of 10. Let's move on. If you guys want to stick around, it's going to the spoiler section. So let's go. So spoilers are ahead. If you don't want spoilers, you can leave now. Alright, let's get started. So, the Dragon King used to be the Demon King who almost took over the world. What a shock. It's supposed to be a shock for you and not for you as in the character you, not you the player. God, that's confusing. I hate when a character is named you, and I don't have any problem with the name you, it just makes it really hard to describe the character in a video game when you're playing as a character. It's perspective. It's POV. Very hard, very annoying. But anyhow, so you are living in the Dragon's King, and you always cuddle up with him at night, which I think is an adorable way to move from one phase of the game to the next. And he starts telling the story of the old hero feeding the dragon, Demon King. And Yu goes on an adventure. She saves his fox family. She pairs up with this little yellow fox called Rocky. He's fun. During the second quest, you go to the Hunbees and try and figure out who caused the problems, and you find out the aide the dragon sent with you. What was her name? What was his name? Saibat. And he basically planned all this. He was trying to cause some trouble, and after you beat him and figure out his plan, he swears his allegiance to you. He was just trying to have some fun. He didn't want to cause problem for the Dragon King because he does have a very high respect for them. He likes to juggle knives. You got Flora. She's the princess of the human kingdom. We find her and we venture into this dream world. And she was trying to seek out a spirit to grant her wish, which was to, basically prevent the Demon King from rising again. Which is your father, by the way, so it gets a little complicated there. Anyway, after you help Flora and overcome her darkness, and that boss fight was really annoying because she kept calling down that rain of stars, which once I got her as a companion, she didn't get for multiple levels later, but, that's my complaints. Anyway, once you're done with all that, your father goes, hey, the Demon King has been rising again, you should go check him out, and it turns out that he's the Demon King. Oh no, Daddy! It's like, Dad, why would you do this? So Yu has to fight her father. She really doesn't want to. And this isn't where it ends, though. This isn't the final fight, actually. See, there's this other little spider butler who's been following her around, and he's actually been seething in resentment because he respected the Demon King a long time ago before he became the Dragon King. But what happened was when the hero cut off his horn, the dragon was able to think more clearly, not so overwhelmed by the evil power within. So he decided, and after the hero spared his life in addition, he decided to make peace and lead the monsters to found their own village and kingdom, and try to get peaceful relationship with the human kingdom. Yu is his precious little daughter, and she's always wanted to become a hero. So he sets up a situation where it's basically the best of both worlds. And if you look at what he's doing, it's actually very, like, kind of cruel, but also, like, kind of exactly what everyone else wants. See, Yu is very beloved by the monster's kingdom, okay? And the human kingdom fears the dragon king will become the demon king again. So, and Yu wants to become a great hero. So he basically wants to solve everyone's problems at the cost of his own life. If Yu kills him in their battle, she becomes a hero, the humans have nothing to fear, and the monsters have a leader who can lead them and be respected by them. He names her his heir, even when she's killing him. And even when she's forcing her to fight him. Because Yu spends the whole fight being like, I don't want to fight you, I don't want to fight you, I don't want to hurt you. Because he's the one who raised her. She told her stories about her papa, but, he was her dad. And, when it's all revealed, it's just like, I'm not going to kill you. And then Arthur shows up with the Demon King's other horn, straps it on him, webs him up in a cocoon so he can turn to the Demon King again. And Yu gets blasted down the mountain. And then Yu nearly dies and has to go into, essentially the dream world again in order to get healed, where she goes on a symbolic battle where she starts looking at her own naivete, and it's like, I don't want to become a hero if it means killing my father. I'm going to go there, I'm going to rescue him. So she convinces Flora and her other companions, you can only bring one of them, but she technically convinces them all, in order to help her out. So you can go to the Demon King, fight through, like, I swear, the mount, when you go back to the mountain, it's definitely double in size. I cannot believe that mountain is the same size. But yeah, so you go back up there, you have to go fight the Demon King. First you fight Arthur, though, and that phase took like 25 turns. Then you fight the Demon King, which took over 50 turns for me. Which, oh my god, no turn-based battle should take over 50 rounds on one enemy. Like, what the actual hell, people? That's insane. Like, that final boss fight took forever. It was just like bashing him again and again. And he was so annoying too. I'm sorry. The final boss fight was one of the worst turn-based strategy games I've ever done. See, in the game, you have a basic attack, and then you have a lot of abilities that you use to supplement. You have ways to build your power up, and then you use that power to spend on attacks. You usually alternate between your other characters doing this stuff, and use star fruits in order to increase your regeneration rate or your magical energy, in order to make sure you get as many special attacks off as possible. That's the way you've been fighting every boss up to this point. And it's the way you fight Arthur in the first half of the Demon King fight. But after you get the Demon King to around half health, he goes through a I'm becoming more powerful mode, and suddenly every one of his attacks inflict a brand new status ailment that you have only seen on one monster, and it only occurred very rarely. It very rarely activated this effect. It's called Seal. And there's one other creature technically in the game that does it, and it's this very, like, torch-wielding enemy, but it's very rare that it actually does it. It only has, like, a 50% chance of using the move, I think. And they're only, like, one configuration of monsters where you get two of them at once. So, you played the entire game. Oh, and also you can heal the sealed status ailment, and they usually don't re-inflict it. So, you played the entire game with sealed being a thing that happens maybe once in a fight if you're unfortunate, and you can use an item to undo it. Now, imagine if a boss had multi-hit attacks and every one of his freaking attacks sealed you. Every attack. I'm not even joking. All of them. It was so frustrating. Like, I got stuck into loops. The first fight, I only brought 10 status effects with me because I was like, I'm not going to run dangerous. I got 30 of them. But for the second attempt. And I went through all of them. I barely got out of that fight alive. And yes, I didn't do a lot of side quests. But I did some grinding in between the stream where I did the first attempt and the second attempt. I was higher level. I was over leveled for where I should be because I just grinded the in-game monsters right there, which let me level up every like 3 fights or so. I was at appropriate level. That fight was just dumb. I'm sorry. Because it took basically half of my abilities. Like, I have two statuses to keep track there. I have health and I have power. And essentially that, every time I got sealed, it was, your power does not matter. And it was just frustrating. And yes, you have two people, so you can have them do that. You can undo the status effect while still attacking, but you're not going to do relevant damage if you can't use your abilities. This is a final in-game boss. His health bar is ginormous. I was regularly hitting him for like 200 damage with my special attack, and he just was soaking it up. And yes, he's the Demon King. He should be tough, but he shouldn't be bullshit. Sorry, I really need to get that off my chest. Just that whole fight was annoying. It's a story boss, not even an optional boss. You have to beat him to see the ending. And then the worst part is I can't even show you the ending. I'm gonna have to get it off YouTube because, so I didn't finish this in my stream and I had to go run off to watch Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness that night. So I actually paused the game mid-battle during that tip. And when I went back to do it, I thought I was recording and I wasn't, so I don't have the footage for the rest of that fight, which is really annoying. So yeah. I'm really frustrated with it. It left a bitter taste in my mouth, because I was almost willing to give the grindy levels a pass. I almost gave that a pass, and bumped this up to like an 8 or a 9. But this final fight was bullshit. It hit a particular nerve for me, because I've been playing Elden Ring, and I'm still one of the things I've always been annoyed about in video games is when game designers, for like the final boss, remove the tools you have using the whole game. And what I mean by this is, in Elden Ring, both the Elden Beast and Radagon, the dual boss you face at the end, it's the one boss the first phase, one boss the second phase, are immune to all status effects. Bleed, poison, frost, the works. And there are legitimate bleed and poison builds that heavily use these effects. Like, as in, you can base your entire build around them for most of the game. And yeah, optional side bosses can appear that are immune to those effects. That's fair game. You can also have optional side bosses that are immune to magic, and that don't take basically any magic damage. But that are nearly immune to magic. They have like a 60 or 70% magic resistance. But when you have the final boss of a level, of a game, that says, fuck you to an entire playstyle, it just seems aggressive. Like, you hate this thing that you put in the game. If you put a playstyle in the game and made it a viable way to play the game, you shouldn't be shutting it down at the end. If you want to do it in optional content, that's fine. That's challenge content for a reason. Making optimized builds for that is completely viable. That's fair. It's fair game. But when designers make the final boss of a game antithetical essentially to some of the mechanics they have heavily introduced, it's really frustrating. And this isn't quite that. It's not immune to most of your attacks, although he is immune to all status effects. I will just say that out there. I tried to inflict some status effects because I thought that would be helpful. I can't inflict any on him. Oh wow, it's almost like this is a regular thing game designers do that they need to stop doing. If you have status effects in your game, the main bosses should be affected by them. I don't think that's controversial. I don't understand why it is. I feel like game designers almost feel like they can't balance status effects effectively, and that the final boss, since it's a challenge, can't be too easy, so they think status effects make everything easy, so they can't have the boss be affected by them. Or maybe they want to like make it look overpowered, so they just say, yeah, we'll just slap it with a bunch of immunities. That's annoying. Stop it. And it sounds like I'm really negative on this game, but I actually really like the characters. I like the music. Like, seriously, I would literally spend time just like sitting there going like, oh, and I was just like humming along to the music. It's good music, it's good characters, good art design, pretty good game design aside from this final boss fight and the way they dragged it out. It just, they kneecapped it, and I want to like this so much. I want to like this game way more than I do. Which is really frustrating to me, because I usually don't have a hard time liking things. Like, you might have noticed, I go easy on a lot of shit in this thing. I gave Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness an 8. There are a lot of people that I've talked to, I told them I gave it an 8, and they're like, really? Yeah, it was more like a 7 for me. It was just okay. It was like, well, I really liked it. I had fun. I thought some of the shots were inventive. It's like, yeah, but the movie was kind of like just eh. It's like, yeah, it was just kind of a comic book movie for me. I'm like, that's what I went in there for. That's what I got. I'm willing to go easy on things if it delivers what I wanted from it. And I feel like near the end, this did not do that. But during the beginning, it showed me it could have, and that's what hurts. I feel like this game could have done it. I feel like these designers knew what they were doing in the earlier levels, and the later levels just said, fuck me. And that's just personally an annoyance. Go figure. So yeah, don't really have much more to say on this. I really just wanted to rant about the final boss fight and the way the levels were drawn out. What else? Is there anything else I'm forgetting? Not really. Oh, there was this other guy. There's some fun side quest characters, I guess. This mom who locks her kid in a cage as a ground out punishment and puts the cage out in the middle of town square. And I was just like, lady, what the hell is wrong with you? There's also this other guy who's like a reformed child eater. And nowadays he eats rare foods to prevent himself from wanting to stack on humans. And it's just like, what the hell? It's like, you get the fact that these people were monsters in the Demon King's army, but now they're kind of trying to chill out, but they're still a little off. And his partner has to constantly be like, dude, we talked about this. We're trying to get you off eating humans alive. Why don't we have some nice chocolate instead? Chocolate does sound good, I guess. It's like, aw, that's cute. He's trying to stop him from being a murderer. It's this weird, almost like disassociated adorableness to the whole thing. Like there's some weird, almost disturbing stuff going on under the surface, but it trying to maintain almost this fairy book look to it, which I kind of love. So yeah, I did have a lot of fun with the setting. I will generally recommend this game, especially if you are more. If you have time to do all the side quests and fully level up and go into the final boss fight, I think that's not going to be as much of a trouble for you. I do want to stress, I played through the main campaign, only doing a few side quests at the very beginning. So yes, if you do all the side quests, you will probably go through this game at a much easier time than me. Challenge level probably won't be as high, but I'm judging it based on my playthrough experience. And, I think the story is definitely interesting and fun. I like Hugh as a character. She's very upbeat. And as a pessimist, I can kind of enjoy that in a protagonist from time to time. Look, we come to these things for escapism. I come here for not reality. If I wanted to be depressed, I'd turn on the news. If I wanted to laugh, I'd also turn on the news, but that's beside the point. Oh, God, the world is fucked today. So, yeah, see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to The Dragon's Library. Please, subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week. And you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.